I'm Jim Collison, and live from our virtual studios here, this is Gallup's Called the Coach, recorded on March 18th, 2020. Called the Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you are listening live, there's a link to our YouTube instance. Our chat room is available right above me there. Just click on that. It'll take you to YouTube. There's a chat room available. Sign in with your Google account and join us if you have questions. We'd love to hear those. If you're listening after the fact, send us an email for your questions, coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. That subscribe button bottom right on the screen, and click the notification bell so you get notified whenever we go live, and you always stay up to date. And if you're a podcast listener, and all the cool kids are listening to podcasts these days, just search Gallup Webcasts in any podcast platform. Dr. Adam Hickman and Ryan Wolf are our hosts today. Adam is Gallup's content manager, and Ryan is Gallup's physical well-being lead. Gentlemen, welcome to Called the Coach.
Hey there. Thanks, Jim.
You bet. We, Adam, let's start with you. We spent some time on Friday just kind of outlining. We've posted 2 articles at Gallup.com around remote workers. And really, I think for individuals, you got to stay close to us, especially in the Gallup.com space, because we're going to continue to publish a ton of information on this. Adam, give us a quick review on Friday, and then talk a little bit about what we'll talk about today around this idea of well-being.
Yeah, so Friday the webcast and the articles that come out were really about how do you manage a remote working team. I think this week alone, from what I've seen social platforms, everyone's talking about home offices, your setup. I mean, look at the backdrop for each of us. We're in dispersed areas, and how do I quickly assemble my tactics I used to have in office to a remote setting? I was looking at our data this morning, and we said in 2016, 20% of employees worked remotely 100% of the time. Well, boy, has that changed in the last 2 weeks. And another number I think we got to keep in mind is that 50% of employees clearly know what's expected of them. That was one of our reporting findings as well. So we're already starting at that halfway marker. And one thing we can't let slip along the way, which has kind of inspired this article that Ryan and I partnered on, was knowing that your leadership and your managers have clear plans for what's coming and how it's going to work. One of those things we can't let go of is their well-being element. It not only shows about that needs of followers of putting some stability and hope and trust and compassion in the work that you do, but it's also knowing that the organization cares as important to you as an employee, but also as a person as well. So that started the conversation with Ryan. Ryan, you want to talk us through some of those points?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of to get a little bit deeper into the elements of well-being, and I kind of lead with the physical element, but there's 4 other elements that really that Gallup has identified through the research, and those are the career well-being or purpose well-being, financial, community, and social well-being. So what I did in this article, and I encourage you to read it if you haven't yet, is just I came up with 7 really kind of key items that we can think about during this current moment that can help us improve our physical well-being, which will cascade into those other elements. So I can kind of start off with the first one, and it was exercise and working out. And really what's happening is we're all just totally being thrown off of our game, right? Our routine, and things have changed a lot. So what a lot of people are doing is just having to adjust and find ways to. A lot of people are just having to work out at home. Some people can, maybe go outside and get in extra exercise or things like that. But there's a lot of different resources you can tap into. I would look into your local gyms. There's also a ton of great national and worldwide websites that are hosting guided workouts or customized workouts that you can tap into. So those are great resources. But I'd also encourage you to think about other ways to get in physical activity. So in our modern world, physical activity has really been engineered out. So we're really kind of hyper-focused on how do I get a workout in? Well, I think that's important. Going to the gym is important and getting your sweat on is great. But there's also other ways to get physical activity in that doesn't involve putting on your gym clothes. So things like cleaning your house really hard or taking your kids outside and going for a walk and just being with them at the park. And doing those sort of things will add to your physical activity and then maybe take away some of that anxiety you might have from missing your regular workout.
Ryan, one of the things that's been helpful to me on my Apple Watch, right? I have this activity tracker, right? That kind of gives me, I have a baseline of information that I've been working at when I was at work. And I've really tried to set my patterns this week to match those at work. So what am I doing? How am I going to get those pieces in and close those rings? I'm kind of a completist. And so I like to make sure those things get done. That has also been helpful in this change, is to be able to take something that was similar, make it the same, even though the environments have changed, and to keep track of that. You mentioned most of the fitness companies have some kind of app that's available as well. You might want to, depending on the ecosystem, some of them even have workouts in them that you can do at home. So you don't have to have the gear to get it done. We at Gallup have many of us are involved in a Peloton group. I don't have a Peloton bike, but the Peloton app has lots of great workouts in it that I can do. None of them necessarily require equipment, because I think that some people freaked out. It's like, oh, I don't have a piece of workout gear in my house. Plenty of things you can do, right, that aren't necessarily around a piece of gear or weights, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was on a text string with a couple buddies from work who just last night who were talking about, hey, what are you doing? How are you adjusting? We've kept each other accountable for a lot of years, and we're just sharing creative ways. So I think reaching out and tapping into that social well-being aspect and combining it with physical well-being is a smart move. So we're not just kind of doing this physical well-being on our own. We can do it together and do it through the support of others.
Yeah. And let's be really clear about this. In some cases, you need to be creative about getting things done. And so it's looking into things. If you made an assumption about something like, oh, they don't do that, it might be time to double check, right? The world is responding in some incredible ways.
Totally.
At this point. And so it may be worth a little bit of extra look in to say, oh, maybe this would work. Try a bunch of different things out. Now this week is the time to try a bunch of things. Find that thing that works for you and then try to replicate that activity. I think it's an awesome opportunity to get even more in than you did before, because you don't have a commute time. So use that commute time, that if you're struggling to get physical activity in at work, which many do, now you've got some commute time that's not there anymore.
Ryan, do you have some thoughts on, I'm thinking so being in a remote setting for a while now, there's some things you've given me just to keep in mind that feeds my analytical, where it's like, I'm going to do it for the formula's sake, not for my health's sake, but I want to make sure my competition kicks in too with that. Anything you can share, like rule of thumb we should keep in mind being remote, not as a analytical move, but just to be aware, because all of things are happening at once, and this being one of the ones not to slip, I feel like it's probably an easy one to slip because you got to get work done still. What's your advice on that?
Yeah, I would encourage you to think about working out differently. So it doesn't have to involve changing your clothes into gym gear. It doesn't have to involve setting aside a full hour to not be disturbed by your children or your spouse, right? That's basically going to be impossible unless you're waking up at 5 a.m. And getting this done, which is really hard to do. We also need our sleep as well. So I would encourage you to think about workouts totally differently than you have in the past. You can break them up into 10-minute segments. You can do them a lot differently than you've done in the past. If you used to go to a gym and use machines and barbells, you have a lot of resistance just in your own body weight, and you can check out those resources online that can put your body in different positions that you haven't done before, and you might find something that you might have really truly needed and you just have been ignoring in the past.
Ryan, when we think about chores as an opportunity for fitness, can you talk a little bit more? You alluded to it. Would you talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah. So the action of taking on and doing chores is a good extension of a workout. You might not sweat. You probably won't sweat unless you're your house is super filthy, but you can get some great physical activity, some non-exercise time, which will fill your circles, Jim. Plus, the product of it is so refreshing and rewarding. So when you're done, you get to operate and live in an abode that's just clean. It's easier to think and navigate. You're a little bit less stressed out about, where are things and why are things out of place. So I'd just encourage you to, do your daily stuff, like tidy stuff up, from time to time, but also find things like cleaning out your garage. I mean, now's a great time to go do that. Or the closet that's been, just overlooked for a few months, and it's time, or even a few years, and it's time to get rid of some stuff. And taking on those projects will make you feel a whole lot better when you're done with it.
Adam, Adam, let me ask you, you're full-time remote now. How do you, are you incorporating, as you adapted to this, are those things, fitness and the chores, is that stuff you've already adapted to, and how are you doing it?
Yeah, and I'm going to do it through strengths, right? So what I was going to say is, Ryan, are you telling me I got to park my Roomba? Is that what you're getting at?
Nice.
Okay, fine. I use things in the house as a way to remind myself to get up. So if I set the clothes in the dryer for an hour, I know in an hour I got to get up. If I've got to move from the washer, that's a tactic. If I used to have a Mr. Coffee warmer thing in here, but if a cold cup, that requires me to get up and move. So it's almost you intuitively have to build things in that's going to cause you to move, kind of like, cleaning out your closet. Well, that's a great activity at night. And then if you think of throughout the day, what are intentional steps that can happen that can move you? Because from our strengths research, right, you get into that flow mindset when you're jamming and you look down, it's 1 o'clock, and then you look down, it's 4 o'clock. Your window's missed, and you might not even know about it. But if you install those things that require you to get up, that are, of your 5 senses, that I've got to do something or move something, I think that's a great opportunity for it.
It does give us a great space to begin to think of, if we're going to look at these things all day. On Monday, that was my job, was like, okay, now that I'm really doing this all day, not just one day working from home, that was completely different. It was like, I'm going to look at this all the time. I better make some permanent changes for now to make things different. Ryan, I'm down. I don't see a lot of sun. In fact, I set up a webcam facing out my window that I look at. That's like a window here on the desk. That was one of my little secrets. Like, if I have to be down here in the office, I at least want to see what's going on outside. Yeah. How important is sunlight and getting out into the sun in this?
It's huge. I'm such a proponent of getting outside if we can, and hopefully we can still do that in the weeks and months to come. So getting outside is important. Also, just bringing the sunlight in, opening the shades, and getting that sunshine in is important for your body to know what time of the day it is. So when it's sunny out, it hits your optic nerve, and it starts regulating those processes that we do when we're up and we're active and we're working. And when the sun starts to go down, that starts to send the signal that it's time to wrap it up for the day. And then we'll be more ready for bed once that time comes.
You mentioned cycles. When we think about our work cycles, how do we, it's going to be different maybe at home, or right, they've been disrupted in some way. How do we handle those work intervals?
Yeah, well, I think, finding a different location for different types of work is important. So you're not just, not everybody is going to have a souped up office like Adam Hickman right now, because not everybody's been working from home. So be adaptable. Think about where you can, where in the house you can get stuff done. You might be able to read it outside even. So think about, so there's probably a lot of us have probably spent a day or more working from home. But if you are just locked and loaded in like your kitchen table, maybe think about where you can do your work elsewhere.
Well, and I think, and Adam, this may be for you too. I may have to go the opposite. I'm down in this office all the time. I should probably take my laptop at lunch or after lunch, and maybe start after lunch at the kitchen table, because I'm not up there right now, and that might break that up for me. Adam, do you do anything to break it up during the day?
Yeah. So I'm wearing a coat, not because it's cold in the house, but I have the window open just to get fresh air in here nonstop. With a wireless headset, Don't sit in the meetings. Get up and walk around. You've got space to move. If you've got a kitchen table, make that be where you check emails, and then move to another spot in the house where you can do something else different. Luckily, it's starting to warm up a little bit in certain places that you can get out as well.
I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to add that because I haven't done that in the 3 days I've been down here, and also try to get out where I can stand. Like this is not a standing desk. And so now I need to start thinking like, okay, what's the next thing to add? Ryan, I'm doing it in a way where I'm trying to add little bits every day instead of trying to do everything all at once. Part of that is connecting with people. Like I couldn't connect with everybody on Monday. So I've been doing it throughout the week as we've been progressing different people every day. What else, when we think about a social lift, when we think about this social component, what other advice would you give in that to keep our well-being high?
Yeah, I would encourage sharing good news, right? So I'm on a big family text string, and they're kind of guilty of, oh my gosh, our school's closed for the rest of the year, and we might be in our homes until May. And so what I add and contribute to that group is good news. So photos of my youngest son, he's almost 2 years old, and just kind of waves of happiness in the terms like it, as there's just so much bad news flowing in. Also just being connected and staying connected with people. I just want you to think about that as part of your health routine. It contributes greatly to our immunity and how we can bounce back and heal quickly from things like sickness. So going to the gym, getting good sleep, eating properly is important, but getting that daily dose of social well-being is just as critical to your well-being and your fulfillment in life as the others.
And Jim, we'll say, Adam, before you go, we'll say sometimes going to the gym is on your back deck or is in your backyard or is in whatever, right? Maybe in your garage, those kinds of things. We know throughout the country, availability to go to different places is different. Lots of places are closed and you can't do those anymore. So you have to turn those, your own home gym. Adam, how are you? You're do this full time. We mentioned on Friday's webcast, you and I intentionally connect. You used to sit next to me in the office and then you moved. Thank you for that. Thanks, Obama. And so we still have to stay connected virtually. What's your best advice on that? How do people continue to do that?
Every time you think you need to send an email, challenge yourself. Can I just call them? Or putting things in place of, like, I was meeting with one of our internal partners yesterday that we're working on something together. And I just said, I'd actually ask, don't email me at all. Just text me or call me, and let's FaceTime, let's do Teams call, something of that sort, where we can interact that way. It's almost, you've got to here's some competition. Don't slow down, shift gears to a different route, right? And think of, I'm not going to see everybody every day. How else can I still do that? And the point I wanted to make too, Ryan, you mentioned about coaches, managers, you've got some other opportunities to make some differences with those that don't have a family, that live alone. Right, they're in this spot of isolation that they need a social lift as well, probably even more because they don't have an opportunity to turn around and walk out and see family, or if they don't have a pet or something in the house where they have some sort of connection as well. Being aware of how they're set up is awesome. I read a study last night I was trying to dig into what's the best optimal space in your house to work. Like what has somebody totally nerded out on this? Here's what I found. Second floor story, if you've got one, outward facing where you can see life existing, which could be mail carriers, garbage collectors, squirrels, trees, something that you can just lean back, look, and see life. That's a little bit of a social lift, and I think it should be our requirement, our expectation of holding not only as a coach, but as a manager as well. As how are you set up? Are you, like, Jim, I'm going to have to call you now more and say, what's going on inside your digital window, man?
Yeah.
Or call you and say, go outside for a minute and call me back.
Well, I saw some birds eurlier moving around out there, and it was pretty cool. A good replacement for it. We also want to say
one other quick thing about. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just want to say, for the social lift, we're all going through these changes and getting adjusted at our house. So I think it just allowing people some grace and really practicing kindness, and allowing them the adaptability to have some time to get their feet settled under them. For those who haven't been working remotely, this is a shock. So if we were just, really nice and kind to each other, it's going to help a lot.
Yeah. Let me say this. This recording is going to live a lot longer than the current situation we're in. But the world's changing a little bit. And I think we're never going to go back as far as it was 2 weeks ago. And so there may be some advice we've given where things have changed and there's some new opportunities. The fact is, if you're a remote worker or you're a manager of remote workers, you've got some new challenges with them. And I think there's some great advice in this, whether we're in this situation that's going on right now in March of 2020 or 2 years from now. We still have some of the same challenges. So let me just preface it with that. Ryan, when we think about goal and goal setting, like we all set a whole bunch of goals at the beginning of the year, and now this kind of throws a wrench into that. And as we reflect on those, what's some advice around what do we do now? Do we throw all those goals out the window, or what do we do?
Yeah,
well, Adam can because his window's open. But
yeah.
How do we?
How helpful, Adam. Very strategic of you. No, we just honestly need to adjust. And this is actually a good time, I think, for us to have some time alone and to analyze what is truly most important in our life. And furthermore, I think it's important to get off social media and maybe close down email for a second and really get deep into your thoughts and into your work as well, and understand what you want out of your life. And that's just one tactic of doing so. And there's a lot of talk now about mindfulness and meditation, and that's been coming on strong over the last few years. And there's a lot of different ways to do it, and there's a lot of resources you can do it. And it's not the same thing for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to sit down and cross your legs and point your hands up to the sky. You can follow a guided mindfulness session, or just honestly sit quietly. And probably not many people have done this, but think of the last time you just sat in a quiet room, perhaps it was dark, and just sat there and thought your phone was away from you, your computer was not available, and you're just sitting there in thinking in deep mode. So that's just a way to kind of get away and reflect on our life.
When we think about that goal, the goal setting, the reflection, a reminder, every Theme Thursday for season 5 and season 6 have a talent mindfulness exercise at the end of them. So nice. Shameless plug for that. We didn't know this was going to happen, but Ryan, you can go and listen to those for your themes and then have these exercises, and they're available there at the very end. What about, okay, so there's some things where things are closing, restaurants are going carry out, some are closing down. We've got to get groceries and stuff. Any final thoughts on, we got to eat. So how do we get, what do we do to get food in here? What are some options that are available?
So obviously in the article, I referenced grocery delivery, which is great. It's also getting slammed right now. So I can't wait to see the data coming back on that. So you might, if you're thinking about grocery delivery, you might want to do that right now, because you might not be able to get a delivery or even a pickup today or tomorrow or anytime soon. But when you go to the grocery store, get more than your standard fare, so you don't have to go back as frequently. Obviously, it's a place of high a lot of people, so increased chance of sharing germs. So also, Jim, we talked about frequenting our local places that serve food. So our restaurants that are really, they're pivoting and changing the way that they can what they're delivering. And I would there's a ton of lists out there if you just look locally, and you can support them and get that sense of community, which is one of those 5 elements that I mentioned earlier, and support those around us.
Micah got a Chipotle, I think, one of those Qdoba delivery for lunch yesterday, and they're offering, many restaurants are offering free, and the person who came had gloves, handed it around like we're not, being very, very careful in this. And we've got to, we need to be that way, but I think there's some opportunities there. I do like how people are responding, at least here in the United States, where some grocery stores are starting to think through different hours for the elderly so they can come in and be able to get their stuff. I was out the other day, and it's that part's kind of slowing down a little bit, at least here, and things were available. So your area might vary. I know for me, it's caused me to think my lunch. I always used to buy it at Gallup. We had a cafeteria. I'm going to save a ton of money. Like, yeah, but I'm going to save a ton of money. Adam, how are you? You're home. You're remote. What do you do about lunch, and how do you handle that?
Yeah, and I'm combating 3 kids as well, right? So my wife's working from home now. We've got 3 kids, and the niceness to the grocery pickup is what I would say. We don't have delivery, so I'm kind of seeing some chat and back and forth. We might not have the delivery to here, but we can go pick it up from the store in the parking lot, right? And what we've decided is, I'm very clear about who. I mean, everything in here about it's the manager, right? So my manager knows, hey, our schedule looks like this for today. Right, priorities are this. I'll get this accomplished, but I've got to do it within these boundaries, because that's how my days will look like right now with everything that's going on. So at lunchtime, it's what do we need? Kind of just plan it out through Ryan's. I almost have Ryan's expectations of what I eat.
They are. Trust me, he's disappointed.
Just call it what it is. But his advice on what those food groups are, and to keep it social and keep it active. I'm not just the one making it, because I'm a horrible cook, and I know that. But the kids are involved with it, and it's now another social piece to what it is. Not just dinner that we're all cooking together; it's also lunch now as well. And so, how do you keep all of these of what Ryan has talked about, even ingrained into just that short period of time?
Alicia has got a question here. That's not the right one because it moved. Let's do that one. How do we keep our teammates, staff that have strengths that need FaceTime? You're looking at one of them right here. An example, one of my teammates has a relator. Woo does too. Guys, Ryan, when we think about some new exercises, what kind of things can we do that now that we can't literally do face-to-face, what kind of things can we do that mimic that face-to-face?
Yeah. So we can get together on video, or we can, at the end of the day, share with your best friends what you've done, what your contribution was. And that's a great lift because I get a little inspired by what my friends are doing as well. And not just, there's also the accountability piece, right? Like I can't let them down because I know that they're kind of relying on me as well. Adam, thoughts on lack of FaceTime when we're not together?
I go right to, how do you get the biggest emotional high like right now? And for folks that have that relationship feeling, I've started even text message to say, nothing's needed. Just wanted you to let you know I'm thinking about you. And you get, I love the new thumbs up things on Apple's phones, because it's like, I'm not going to respond to you, but I'm going to respond to you. So I'm good with that. But it's the intentionality of ensuring they feel seen, and I would even say heard at those low peaks.
We on Friday you gave the advice about incorporating socializing into meetings, and I think that goes without, or that we should probably mention that here as well. We are intentionally at Gallup starting our meetings with 5 minutes of a focus on you, or 5 minutes of intentional social. Now we do that pretty well anyways. That kind of happens in our meetings when we're in person, but sometimes these virtual sessions can be kind of stiff and rough, and also when you don't have the right equipment, it makes it difficult. Today, good luck finding a webcam today. They'll come back in stock at some point. Like, those got all bought out too. But I think making those face-to-face connections on video, good audio, and then making sure you're having some social time as well, talking about those things. Ryan, you might recommend we talk about some of those well-being or fitness goals in them. How's your fitness going? How is the walks? Are you getting out? Did you see the sun today? Those might all be questions, right, that we might want to ask each other. We do have an opportunity to shift some things too, where like during the middle of the day when the sun is up, it may be a great opportunity to go out and enjoy an extended period of time out on the deck, getting some sun, making up that time later in the evenings, right? So guys, any final thoughts as we kind of bring this thing in for a landing? Ryan, I'll start with you. Any final things of encouragement you want to give to the listeners?
Yeah, I would just encourage people to keep extending kindness and flexibility for your partners at work, and also your family members at home. We're all going through a lot of different changes and a lot of adjustments. And if we allow each other space and time to really figure out what our new routine is going to be, we're all going to be a lot less stressed out about it.
Yeah. Ryan, what's your top 5?
Discipline, achiever, futuristic, activator, and harmony.
That's so awesome. And Adam, what's your top 5?
Oh, here we go. Ideation, command, analytical, competition, and individualization.
No, and they play into as well. Adam, is any final thoughts as being the resident expert in this, both because you work in it and you write about it? What would you say?
I will shut off my Roomba. I will start with that. Right. And have the boundary conversation with your managers on when work is, when work's not, and put an intentional structure in place. This is analytical reflection time. Use the if-then statements. If this happens, then this happens. If lunch is at noon, then this will be placed, right? Use that time of if-then statements to help prepare for you don't need to do an if-then statement for the month. Do it day by day. Last night, I was sitting with my wife saying, let's look at our schedules, line up. What do we got? Right, use analytical. She's got developers. We're back and forth on how it is. If you're living alone, if there's no one in the house, right, we all report with somebody, or you've got best friends at work, or you've got an opportunity now to make some new connections. Leverage those as your if-then pieces to stay connected, and then to share, as Ryan said, kind of your well-being tactics.
Awesome. My advice would be like voting in Chicago: vote early and vote often, and make sure you're meeting with people often. Like I think if you're thinking it, we said this on Friday as well. If you're thinking about someone, don't send them an email. Actually, give them a ping. Hey, you got a few minutes to talk? And I think getting them on video and having those conversations. I've actually prioritized. My workstation is here. Our Teams is prioritized on a big monitor right above it, so that when I'm looking at people, it feels like they're right here with me. Not a little tiny screen, but the biggest screen I could get is the one I put them on. So appreciate it. Ryan, Adam, thanks for coming out today to be a part of this quick message. Again, the links for those articles will be will be below in the show notes when we publish this. I've been putting them in the chat room as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go out, take a look. Don't forget, we have tons of resources on Gallup.com, and we have gone over an overdrive in writing about this. We've got some survey information coming out about it. Adam, you got some stuff, I'm sure, that's queued up and ready to go.
Yes.
Now is not a time to get far away from us. Stay close, both at Gallup.com, and then a lot of the stuff we're doing here in the podcast community. So if you want to stay up to date on these and know when, like I gave you guys like 2 days notice on publishing this, follow us on Eventbrite. Gallup.eventbrite.com is the place to go. And anytime I publish anything new, it will be available there, and you can sign up here. I want to thank those who joined us in the chat room today. If you have any questions about anything, you can always send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Join us on our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/call-to-coach. If you want to join us on LinkedIn, head out to CliftonStrengths Trained Coaches. You don't necessarily have to be one of those to be there. We'll let you in, but ask to be invited, and I'll let you in. I want to thank you for joining us today. If it's 2021, we're hoping things are better by then. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.